I don't know why I get so much excitement when I get a chance to overcome a fear. Doesn't matter whether it is skydiving or hang gliding, jumping out of a plane, or literally it could be eating bugs like tarantulas the size of your fist, or just climbing up a sheer cliff. There's something about facing and overcoming a fear that is gratifying. It's empowering. And today I want to share with you some of the best ways to face your fears, because guess what? Most people are living with way more fear than they should be.
One shot, not a future for sure. Let's go. I'm turning dreams into reality. Yeah, it's one shot, not a future for sure. Let's go.
It is amazing how many of us are not really living the life that we want to because we're afraid. It takes a certain amount of courage. It takes a certain amount of self-confidence. It takes someone that's willing to do something courageous. Think about it. It's so easy in today's world to just hide. Like literally, we're spending 12 hours a day on our screens post-pandemic. That is the actual stat, whether you're working or goofing off. Like we're living behind these screens all day long. And based on the last couple of years, we haven't even been encouraged to like socialize. We instead have been social distancing, and we've been shut up with, covering our faces. And I don't know if we've really recovered entirely from it, right? There's a lot more travel happening abroad. People are definitely getting back to the way things were, but I feel like there's a lot of leftover anxiety. There's a lot of leftover fear. And today we're going to talk about it because it can be so debilitating from keeping you from living your best life possible. It's amazing what we're afraid of. For some people, literally number one fear on the planet, public speaking. Newsflash, that's what I kind of do a little bit for a living. But also we're afraid of death. Look at this. We're afraid of certain types of creatures, snakes, bugs, spiders. We're afraid though, more than just of those things. We're afraid of failure. We're afraid of letting people down. We're afraid of not living our dreams. And so fear is this very, very real thing. And I don't know, for some reason in my life, I found like that my favorite way to overcome fear is to face them. And that means that I've done my fair share of crazy out there. Just for a moment, I want you to imagine, like, do you remember that old show Fear Factor that would come on and they'd have people doing all sorts of crazy, scary things? And I always hated it because I'm like, man, that show would be so fun to go on until you have to eat a bug, just even touch a bug. And when I was in Cambodia, I had a chance to literally go into this bug village where during massive genocide that had happened decades ago, people had learned to literally survive in the jungles. And so they had a way of trapping these monster-sized bugs for protein. And for them, it was normal to just eat them. For me, it was like one of the scariest moments of my life, sitting there eating a tarantula, eating these like massive, massive beetles. Absolutely disgusting. And yes, I will confirm that in the butt of a tarantula is like perfect green pudding-esque, sludgy, you don't even want to think about it, hairiness on the outside, going down, tickling your throat. And all of that, why would I do such a crazy thing? Because I'm fearless. It's not that I don't have fear. It's that if I have the power to overcome my fears, then I can be a force to be reckoned with. And isn't that what we really want? To like discover what our purpose is and actually live it? Let's talk about it.
Follow me, please. Follow me, please.
Most Americans are literally living in the safest place, in the safest time of history, but how much fear are we actually living with? Some fears rarely affect our day-to-day lives, but others keep us from achieving our true potential. A new poll of 2,000 Americans analyzed how they feel about their personal safety and found that 52% feel on edge every single day. Can you imagine that? Kind of hard to believe, but I'll tell you, I get people from all over the world that come to my live events. And they always come because they're like, hey, Kris, show me how to be a billionaire. Kris, show me how to become a multimillionaire. Like, what's the formula? And they're almost always surprised to find that half of the event is actually talking about their personal psychology. As in, who cares if I give you the strategies of building a successful business or investing successfully in real estate if what's really gonna stop you is fear of failure, the fear of not knowing what to do or how it's gonna go, or the fear to just take action when it's easier to just hide behind a book and say, well, let's get a little bit more knowledge. Fear is real and it stops people, which is why when people come to my events, we have activities that we have people do to face those fears. And that's because 98% of all success is not how you did it, but it's how you think and what you believe. What does that mean about your life?
I failed.
And?
I'm a bad person.
I show up.
I show up.
And I love my life.
And I love my life.
And I love me.
And I love me.
And I forgive me.
I am powerful.
Come on, Michelle.
I am powerful.
Open your eyes. Come on, Michelle.
I am powerful.
More, Michelle.
I am powerful.
Hold that microphone.
I am powerful.
All the way.
I am powerful.
All the way.
I am powerful.
Hands up in the air. Let it be said.
I
Go.
am powerful.
Because I am limitless. What? 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 So let's talk about what fear really is and where it actually comes from. In the majority of situations, it's actually a limiting belief, meaning a lie, something we treat as true when in fact it's not. Now, the reason why we got to talk about this is because some of you are subscribers on my channel because you want more money, or you might want more love in your life, or maybe you're looking for that healthier body, but you have to face some of your limiting beliefs like getting up early is hard, or going to a gym is going to be tough, or it's going to take discipline to eat that way, and I don't know if I really have that, and man, I've been kind of lazy in my life, or I don't know how to do it. We tell ourselves these stories as master storytellers. How we talk about ourselves changes what we perceive. According to the National Science Foundation, an average person has up to 60,000 thoughts per day. Of those, 80% are negative and 95% are repetitive. That means that we're having the same thoughts over and over and over again, and the majority of them are negative. And do you know who that turns you and me into? Little tiny baby wussies that literally don't have the courage, the bravery to get out and do something and make something happen, or even just take action because we're afraid of the judgment of others. We're afraid of what will happen if I don't achieve and I fail, and how will my family and how will other people reflect on me and think about me, and how will I feel about myself, and am I letting loved ones down, or am I letting God down? If we repeat these negative thoughts over and over again, our outlook becomes more and more negative, and a negative outlook almost always yields a negative result. I mean, makes sense, right? So yeah, skydiving might sound a little extreme, or doing some of these other fear factor things, but really it's just a practice to remind myself from time to time that I am not those fears. And just because you have a thought doesn't mean it's who you are. But if you worship it, you can transform it into your future. And haven't we missed out on enough of life because of our fears? Let's do something about it right now. Man, I gotta tell you, I used to be a huge introvert. I was shy, I was nervous, I didn't know how to confidently put myself out there and project myself. And when I was 19 years old, I decided after high school, before college, that I was gonna spend 2 years of my life serving a Christian mission for my church. And I was called to Germany. Didn't know the language, I didn't know the people, didn't know anything about it. And I remember after being there a couple of months that I got really down on myself. I'm like, dude, this is not going so well. You're literally nervous to put your hand out just to shake someone's hand in a greeting, say hello. And I recognized that I was allowing my fear to control what I was trying to accomplish. And in that moment, I remember deciding, man, Kris, this isn't gonna go well unless you can find a way to become more charismatic, more outgoing, more gregarious. And I remember the first time I changed my belief and I decided, you know what? I am charismatic. Now, don't get me wrong, that was a total lie in the moment. I had nothing but a lifetime of evidence that suggested otherwise. But that's the beginning of creation. You have to hold space for something new. And if you want something new to come into existence, sometimes you have to let something old die. In other words, You have to choose. Kris, are you going to be charismatic, or are you going to be this small, limited, quiet, shy human being that isn't very influential? Well, that day I made my choice, and what happened with practice is I did a form of therapy I'm going to share with you, where eventually I got over that, and today, guess what? I'm a public speaker. I literally fly around the world and I share messages with people, and I'm making a video today for you, all because of this. It's called exposure therapy. Overcoming your fear does not mean convincing yourself it isn't scary. It's not about thinking that you're a fearless human being. We all have fears. You have fears, I have fears. I still have fears today. The difference is whether or not you face them or not. Right? This whole idea of exposure therapy is developing your own strength and learning how to rise above it by facing it over and over again. And I'll tell you what, first time I actually spoken to an audience of 70 people, I was terrified. I mixed up my words. I remember people laughed and I didn't understand why, because I had this moment where I was telling a story of how I bought my first real estate property, and I said, there wasn't a sky in the cloud. And everyone laughed, and I couldn't replay the tape. I didn't know what I had said wrong. It was like this little moment of lixdexia. And, but I got over it, and then I practiced. And with more speaking, a time came when I was like, wow, this is the number one fear for most people. I feel like I own this thing now. Like, this isn't scary anymore. And that's because I learned this little tip. Did you know that the same chemical process for fear, this adrenaline that your body experiences, these spiked cortisol levels, is literally the same chemical process for excitement? The first time I walked on fire, I was given a choice. You can either be scared of burning your feet, or you can be excited of successfully crossing the fire. And they said it's the same biological process. What are you going to choose? And what I learned that day is that fear is a choice, and that it's not really about overcoming our fears. It's just being in the practice of facing our fears that make us very, very strong human beings. And that is something you can do. We can be fearful, but we can learn how to face them by exposing ourselves over and over and over again until something that once seemed impossible or really hard becomes easy. Overcoming your fears has a lot more to do with facing your limiting beliefs. And it's kind of scary if you try to do that alone. So I've got a gift for you today, something that I genuinely think is really going to help you out. The process of overcoming limiting beliefs and fears can seem impossible at times. You want to find an experienced mentor or a process that can help you overcome this. And here's the process I have for you. After documenting the top 10,000 limiting beliefs that we leverage against ourselves to live a limiting life, I wrote a book called Limitless, and it documents a very simple process that you can learn to control the change in your life, to literally overcome your limiting beliefs. The process is, how do you identify what the limiting belief is? How do you explore the cost, the consequence of how it's been holding you back in life? And then what is the scientific process for how you actually overcome that, so that all of a sudden you don't have to feel worthless and that you're not enough and that you're a failure, but instead build real confidence rooted in real beliefs that you can build not just with faith, but find evidence for. That's all contained in this book. And I've written this book, I wrote it for my children, but I've also written it for you, and it's a gift from me to you today. If you click the link below, you're going to find out how you can get a copy of this. It does not cost you anything other than the cost of shipping. I want to put this in the mail. I want to give it to you, and this is my promise. If you read this book, you will walk away with the ability to transform your own life. And that can mean overcoming your fears. It can mean overcoming your limitations. More importantly, it can mean living your limitless life. Grab a copy of this book and let it do the transformational work for you that it's done for me and so many others. You know, fear is one thing that holds us back, but for many of us, so does living in the rat race. Like, do you ever feel trapped? Like, man, I just feel like I'm in this rut, the 9 to 5, doing the same thing every day, but never really getting ahead. Click this link right here. Watch this video that I made for you. Let me show you how to get out of the rat race right now.
1, 2, 3, right. Yeah.